Okay, guys. Yeah, what a way to start my stream. Let me see if I've gone live here. Checking to see if I'm live. Okay, it looks like I am currently live. That's good. And I want to make sure I can see this. Okay, this doesn't look like it's populating the way I want it to. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute that so I can keep up with my live chats. And this should still pop up my chat. So everything should be good. All right, so let me go ahead and move a few things out of the way here. I got less cleanup to do than I did last time. I'm going to go ahead and jump to my other camera. Got some new transition stuff. Look at that. Much cleaner. And the camera's a lot closer. I'm still trying to find a place where I'm going to put this stuff, but I think we're okay. Here is, let me save that one for a second. Here's what I did work on last week. You can see a little bit here. I'm going to do some still photos. I actually have sort of that. Let me show. I had, oh yes. Share on stream. Let me turn off my camera and do this. There we go. All right, so here is the miniatures I did last week, the three of them. These are a still image, so it's going to be it shows all the raw detail. If you were looking at this from 3 feet away, it would not look this bad. The most important thing is, mostly in the lines, I'll go back and clean things up. This will give you an idea of sort of how things look before you get into it. Looking at it in the bigger screen, that's, it looks a lot better than the small screen. Let me go back to what I was doing. So I have those three. And we kill the photo. Oops. Not this. And transition. There we go. All right, so I got these three here. I'm going to go ahead and finish painting these up a little bit better, but I want to do a little bit of work on this guy here. So I talked about this one here being sort of the leader. He's the only one I have that's made of pewter. And the rest of these, I think, are the Reaper bone line or whatever. And I talked about the fact I had some like punching gauntlets for, back that up a little bit so you can see it just a little bit better. Some punching gauntlets with the Ogre Kingdoms for Warhammer Fantasy Battle. And they're kind of cool. Little knobs and all that. And they have fists on the inside, and they basically attach it into the wrist, and that's how it was. Well, I took this one here, and I carved out the wrist right there, and I plan to put that right over this like this. Now I have to do a little bit of trimming, which I decided to wait until the stream, and I'm going to use some glue, which I use this glue for the most part when I do it. It's a good gel glue. I'm going to just come in here and kind of just snip this end off. I try and do two things. I try and make sure it doesn't fly across the room, and I try not to ever pinch myself with the snips, because I don't want to get hit in the eye with the little piece flying across the room. And let me tell you, as a person who's done it, when you pinch yourself with the snips, you will wish you hadn't. See, and that one just kind of bounced around a little bit. There we go. All right, so I had to do that to get his wrist to fit in there. And even that's pretty tight. So I'll go in here with my X-Acto knife. Excuse me while I rearrange some stuff. So that picture I showed you a second ago, I'm hoping I'll be able to send that by email to basically a Dropbox, and then I'll be able to access those photos midstream, and you'll be able to get photos like that. I just trimmed my fingernails here. I'm having a problem getting that latch. So this little X-Acto blade kit is kind of nice. It has all the pieces one would want, essentially. Excuse me while I focus on this. And I need to make this wider, not necessarily deeper, but both is probably good. And I can pull from both sides. Still fighting a little bit of sickness. If you watched last week's video, you might remember I had a bit of a sore throat and was talking a little weird. Looks like I have someone in the chat. Feel free to talk to me if you want, or not, and just enjoy. I gladly will talk about what I'm doing or D&D in specific. If you watched any of my content, I tend to focus a lot on older stuff, but I do know a lot about 5e stuff, though I may have to go look. While I don't have the 2024 books, I do have the 2014 books, so... So I don't know if this part here is as necessary. What I'm doing, I need to get it wider, not necessarily more to the front. So I'm going to just finish that little piece there because it was sticking out. And we'll have to worry about this thing getting wider. This wall is substantially thick. It's designed to go over it's designed to wrap basically around a ogre fist that was already there. Let's see how well we're doing now. Okay, so the Bugbear's knuckles are 3 wide. And they might fit, but all this extra trim I have here, I'm going to have to move. So a little bit off of the Bugbear side and a little bit off of the hand side, and I think we'll be good. Has anyone ever cut their thumb doing it this way? Right here where you're cutting towards your thumb like that, because it's the best way to get an angle, and your knife slips a little bit and just stabs you right in the fingerprint of the thumb, like I almost did a second ago. Yeah, I've done that a few times in my life. This part won't matter at all, because for sure that's going to be 100% covered by the the glove. See if that makes any difference. All right, we're getting there. So if you look on the inside of the hand there, I don't know if that's a very good angle right here. Sort of right, maybe turn it this way, be better. So right here is the problem. I mean, not just the problem, it's a problem. It's the biggest bulging part out that I have to get through, I should say. And we'll come at it from both ways. Yeah. So a long time ago, I used to have my own business, and this was a thing I used to do. And this is why I'm not sure this is going to matter a whole lot. He's got the straps to make it look like it matches. It doesn't have to have the entire hand behind it. I just need to fill it. I think the way we're going to compensate that is with green stuff. So I have a little bit of 2-part epoxy green stuff. I'll show you just a little bit of how this works. Essentially, you don't want this stuff to mix before you're ready, and you're not going to need a very big chunk of it at all. Like, that's half, and that's the other half. Maybe a little bit more of the yellow, just because I feel like it was a little disproportionate in sizes there. All right, now put this back in here, and that's the beauty of green stuff right there. And then as I mix this together, it will pull the other color off my finger. Yellow and blue make green. When it turns green, it will start to harden and become solid. It doesn't have to be the perfect green. It could be a little more blue or a little bit more yellow. More yellow tends to be a little more flexible. A little more blue tends to be a little bit more hard. And again, I have probably too much here. So we're going to put this in here. Mash that down. I'm probably going to take this out some. I have way too much. It's not an incredibly fast dry time, but it's not slow. All right, put that in there like that. Mash it in. All right, come back in here. Kind of pluck that out. Look at this light here. So next week I hope to have some sort of music a little bit. So I have this in here, and then that will be the foundation that basically will hold that fist. And now he has a punching gauntlet and a mace, and that will identify him as the leader. And then I have these other two fists, if I want to make that more of a thing with my bugbear size creatures, which I think would be really cool. So we'll leave him to dry until next week. And next week I'll go ahead and do that. All right, put that over here. And the epoxy probably would hold that just fine. It probably wouldn't be a big deal. But if it was something that it came off of, I could just reattach it with glue. That will harden within hours. Now the question is what I want to do with this. Maybe I want to make his belt a little different. Maybe I'll make a little money pouch on the side. I need to get rid of... Give me a second. Nope, I got my tool. So I got me a little nut tool, like a little pick that you go into like nuts. I don't think it's really used for teeth or whatever. It's too big for that. I think this one's actually used for nuts. But you can kind of get this sculpted the right size. The green stuff will keep fingerprints. So you have to kind of work those out. And if like a little bag, kind of have to get this down the size. I am not much of a sculptor. A lot of what I do is by chance and happy accidents. I'm going to create a little bit of vertical lines. I don't know if this is going to end up as a bag or more of a potion. As long as it doesn't look like it's just a piece of green stuff stuck to the side of him. I think that's the big thing. Okay. So we're kind of getting a little bit of a top to it. Oops, I'm going to get speaking of the top, getting a little bit of a directionality to it. And now I want to make this kind of flared open. I feel like I need to get this on him before I do too much because it's going to start to diminish all the other parts I've done on the side. And as long as it doesn't look like it's just green stuff stuck to him, I think that's the important part. Alright, so we're going to stick it on with a little bit of glue. And then as that dries, in fact, I might just get a little bit of water. For those of you who don't know, water on top of super glue crystallizes the super glue and accelerates the drying speed. It also makes it slightly brittle. But if you're trying to get it to dry quicker, it's not a bad way. So we're kind of guide away from the green stuff on the side. I mean, it doesn't look terrible. It's got a little, I mean, by the time it gets painted, I think it'd be fine. And I just happen to use the rest of my green stuff. I'm okay with it, I guess. Not the end of the world. Okay. So, let me have a sip of my coffee. Oh, my coffee cup. So, I don't know where me and my wife were at, but I bought this super fancy cup for not a lot of money. I think it was Walmart. I want to say like in the Stranger Things section of Walmart. It's basically hex grid, not hex grid, like an actual like graph paper grid, like a bourbon cup, but I just have coffee in it. I thought it was pretty cool. And it was like $6. Not very expensive. All right, we're going to get into these guys. So, I need to get the tunics different colors. And I need to get the hair and skin done. I have other layers I'm doing on the leather. I'm darkening things. So I need to get this done. And I think this is the color I'm going to be using for the hair. Let's do the hair before I do the loincloths. I'm going to put this, oops, shake this up real quick and rotate that because that was not, that was like the paint has separated. Let's see if this is any better. We don't want that. We want this. And we're not going to need a lot of it. Most likely, because I'm going to be doing a fair bit of water. I'll use a bigger brush. I'll show you about the consistency I'm looking at. Get a text message maybe. My phone just beeped at me. Oh. Okay. So on this here, this is going to be the base layer for the hair. And I'll be going to probably something lighter, unless I decide to have dark hair. If you look at my other dude with a broken hammer on him, I have kind of a darker than this even base layer. And I think what I did is I went over this with about this color, and then I went over it with a higher color, and then I brought it back down, more bright color, I should say, not higher color, and then I went back down into where it is. All right, so we're just going to run this across. This is supposed to hit the recesses. So while this looks like basically a puddle up here, it's a little watery, I can work that out. I want to avoid small details like the ears. And the lip. And I want this to look different than the leather around it. So a lot of this, like the eyebrows, that's probably getting more highlight, hitting the ridge than this base color. I'm not saying it won't be this color, or I won't go brighter or darker. I don't know actually yet. What I'm really trying to do is maintain as much of the hair detail while I get this on there to get rid of that red. So by doing a very thin layer, I'll hit this again and it will come out better. Now we got the right leg over here. And this would be a good opportunity to separate the cloth from the hair. And both feet probably have a little bit of hair. And this has a little bit too much pigment on it. If you ever get a little too much, just go back with a dryer brush and pull it off. Try and get this so I can see it and you can see it. Check in chat to make sure anyone said anything. I don't know if there's anything I can do on that other foot. What about forearms? We have a little bit of tufts of hair sticking out here around the gloves. I'm not doing that yet. We have back hair, so I'm probably going to carry this into his back, because I think that's going to be a natural thing. Back and shoulder hair. Though the hair here is not as long as it is on the shoulder, on the head. And there's a patch on his lower back where his lats stick out, this little edge here. And I don't want to lose that detail either. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you're doing your first painting, you just kind of want to stay in the lines. Now this is some decision. I'm not seeing detail on the shoulder. I see muscle. But I do see hair here. So I think I'm going to go around the shoulder and leave the shoulders free. And we'll let that be skin. And when I come back by the end of this video, I'm hoping that will be a lot better. We just have to kind of start breaking this out. And it's going to be a very brown model. And I want to avoid that look too. Also, something to take into consideration, if you notice around the head, there's some parts that look like they've been worn white, where maybe my fingers have pulled the paint off. I need to be aware of that being an issue. Until this gets properly sealed, I want to be careful that I'm not pulling this paint, especially this thin layer of paint I'm putting on here right now, because it'd be very easy to pull that off, in my opinion. And again, going around the back. So I don't know how much people want me talking about what I'm doing with the painting, or if they just want me to paint. So what I'm going to do is, until people pose questions, I'm just going to start talking about, I guess, my latest videos I've been putting up about D&D stuff. I think it'd be the best way to go. And just kind of go. I mean, I hope to get some questions here. I don't think anyone responded to my community post. I put a community post up. Let's see here. Shrink that down. Anyone respond to my community post? Any questions posed? No questions posed. All right. Well, we'll keep this going then. But I've done the community post to allow people a forum to be able to talk to me or to pose questions they want to hear about if they can't make the live stream, or to kind of guide the direction I'm going. With this. So last week we talked a lot about keeping the borderland and the Rodimus keep. I did a whole campaign diary on Rodimus keep, talking about my actual weekly group that they played basically every week for about 3.5, 4 years. And that was a lot of fun. And we ended up in Keep of the Borderland. And my honest opinion on that module is that it is a wonderful sandbox to build out of, but unless your players really want to go after it, you can spend a lot of time around it, dancing with it, doing things in and around it, and going back to it, and never actually complete it. I want to say we did Keep in the Borderlands for like, it was over a year. And I wouldn't say they necessarily got tired of it. I think they felt maybe like they should have killed the big bad guy. But that module's not really wrote to come out and fight you at the gate. You have to at least go to it while this perpetual evil is brewing to go do it. I mean, certain modules, for example, Temple of Elemental Evil, it literally has a part where one of the times when you leave, if you've pissed enough people off down there, they will meet you at the village of Hamlet or somewhere between there or at the gate and bring the fight to you. That's literally a planned fight. I guess I should say spoilers. Until people come here and tell me otherwise, I'm going to talk about spoilers, I guess, a little bit with different modules. But with Keeping the Borderland, it's about replenishing. It's about, you've been gone 2 weeks, what's repopulated that dungeon? How much trust have you earned or gained, or have you had a chance to meet with the Castilian in the keep and everything? I didn't do his leg. Because there's basically the keep lord, the lord of the keep. You know, have you earned his favor yet? Is he going to send you help? How would he help you? What does the party need? Were there any slaves that the party was able to rescue? Captives, whatever you want to call them. And in my case, they got super lucky and they rolled a 20, if I'm not mistaken, a 19 or a 20, which ended up being a dwarf with an 18 strength. And he didn't just become a part of the group. What that guy did is he became, I figured out like what some sort of skill he would have and basically made him a blacksmith there that was helpful for the party. And he was a potential future party member. Party had 3 PCs. It had 2 previous PCs that had dropped out of the game or quit over the time, and I was running as NPCs to help round out the party. And then the party had hired several henchmen. And yeah, that was the party. It was about, I want to say we had 9 people total. We had a dwarf NPC, and we had a human thief NPC, and then we had the cleric, the magic user, and I want to say the other guy was a magic user too. And then we had an elf NPC. So we had 3 NPCs. And we only ran 2 at a time. We always kept 1 back. And then we ran 4 henchmen. 1 was a magic user. 1 was a cleric that was first level. And then we had 2 torchbearers that were fighters. And then technically we had other henchmen. We had the one that stayed back. And he would maintain with the horses. where they had a cook, they had 4 guards, and more porters, like 2 more porters, I want to say. And they had a wagon. For a long time, the party had a wagon. And that was pretty cool. I'm going to go a little bit more vibrant on the no, I think I'm going to go black. I'm going to go black on the fur around the mace. I'm just going to actually go black with that. So yeah, that was basically the party makeup. And there was not a lot the party couldn't do. They faced... This is going to come gushing out of there. Tell me you need to add water without telling me you have to add water to your paints. Anyways, they fought the owlbear, they fought the orcs, they fought the kobolds, they fought the hobgoblins, the goblins, they fought the slime, which killed one of the PC wizards, actually. One of the deaths we had in the party was to a slime. Because they just do so much damage. I think he was... There was a lot going on. And I don't think... Without putting his business out there, I don't think he really cared about the game. Not that I fault him. And when I come back, I 100% hope he comes back. I think it was just a mixture, and this speaks a little bit to hindsight being 2020. I should have seen this as an opportunity to have more fun, beer nuts, and less life-risking ailments. I'm pretty sure the magic user's not watching this video right now, so I'm not saying anything out of school. I would certainly say it to them, too. You know, mostly that I apologize for, you know, not reading the room, essentially. They were dealing with stuff. And we just probably should have done like little gladiator arena and killed things, made things go boom. I think that'd been fun. I'm kind of liking that gray with the black, that white with just a straight, doing like a black wash over it. I kind of like that a lot. It was not really a happy accident. I was kind of hoping for that, but it came out more gray than I was expecting. I thought I was going to have to do that with a highlight. But I have a feeling by the time I go back over this with a touch-up, I will have the color I'm looking for. So yeah, A lot of really cool things. I took a lot of, I won't say liberties, but I kind of tried to make things make sense. So you had a room with a bunch of giant rats and oozes and an owlbear. Make that make sense. Like that's incredibly gonzo. So I kind of created like this economy. Um, Essentially, the owlbear and the ooze didn't fight each other because of mutual destruction. Somehow the oozes just knew that. Not trying to look into it more than that. I think I'm going to do his teeth that way too, because I'm going to go back over it with a bone. Now I'm going to do a lighter, not quite as dark when I do that. And then I had the rats able to outmaneuver the ooze essentially, and the owlbear, and they were basically there to gather the treasures, the shinies, the things that dropped off of the party members, off of the things that were killed, and of course, scavenge bones. That was the only way I could make it make sense. So you had three different types of mobs in the same area ish. And they weren't working together, but they weren't against each other. And I tried to take that into consideration. Like, the owlbear wouldn't pull a punch to not hit a rat, and he would certainly eat a rat if a rat was dead next to him. So would the ooze. Like, they would stop and just, okay, lunch. But they weren't going after the rats specifically. Okay. I didn't really want to get that in the shaft quite yet. That'd be fine. All right, so you can see here the leather, the hair is already starting to get close to where I want it. I want to get to the tunics and get the last of that white knocked out. And come back to this brush. See who's texting me real quick. My daughter was late to school this morning. No, she wasn't. But that's okay. My daughter was early. She just had a school event that made her miss school. All right, so we're going to use this blue. And I think I want to repeat some of these colors. So we're going to go with this yellow, this blue, and this green. Arbor green, yellow flame, and cobalt hue. I think I'm going to repeat that in this group of miniatures. I have like 14 hobgoblins. Several times I have 3 at different ones. And I'm going to make some element like that so that when I need to separate 3 of the same model out, you can tell. Again, this looks brighter than what it will be. I'm going to hit this with a wash at the end to darken literally everything. No, I won't say everything. a very large percent of the model will be darkened, and then very specific things will be brought to a higher level to make them stand out. And though I'm using a big brush here, I'm doing everything I can to not paint like the thighs, to not paint the belt. But again, if I do, not the end of the world. I'm going to hit this with a wash. And all that's going to kind of go dark right there anyways. So a little bit of brown on that blue on the bottom will not matter. Oh yes, I gotta paint that coin purse. I think I'm gonna do a little pop of color with that. I don't know what I'm going to do. I did the other bag as like a tan, like a beige almost. This one's going to be a little different. I'm trying to get this where stay in frame. A little bit on that leather. I didn't want to get that there, right there on that tip. And the very high point right there is more of a problem than on the bottom and a recess, because the recesses are just going to be filled in with dark colors anyways. Again, I'm not overly worried about this element. If I was painting Royal Guard or something elf, I would worry a lot more about that. But I don't think this guy changes his outfit very often. So what could be leather before I painted it might end up being mud or stains, blood. I'll just kind of let the imagination wander on that. Okay, well, I got that one done. Oh yes, we're going to do the cloth strap on the bandage, or whatever you want to call it, on the leg. Again, there's a little bit here that should be white before I go over it for perfection. But luckily I'm painting bugbears, and I'm not painting a golden demon miniature. More so in that, though. It's not even that. It's... Gee, Chris, when I get that. I'm literally going to hit this stuff with a wash, and it really won't matter in the end. I just want to make sure. So by doing this in a real liquid wash, what I've also done is I've gone ahead and created highs and lows just because, which is kind of cool. Now we're going to jump to the Arbor Green. Okay, so that was a fight. When the party ran into the ogre, well, they ran into the goblins, who then lured them into the ogre. They were wrecking goblins bad. They killed probably 15 goblins or so quickly, and were just devastating them. And the goblins did exactly what the plan was according to the module. They went ahead and opened the secret door. That alerted the ogre to come through. Everything was good. And then they did a charm spell. No, it wasn't charm. It was a very good monster reaction chart. And they rolled a 20, if I remember right. They ended up convincing this guy without charm, though they had charm, wouldn't work on an ogre, but they did have charm, to work with them and they'd pay him. And what they basically told him is, you tell us who your biggest enemy is. Who do you want killed, and we will go kill them. And I will give you gold. And that happened. And his biggest threat was the gnolls. That was another group. And the party left the goblins and went after the gnolls. And the ogre and the party went and killed all of the gnolls. And while they were dealing with the gnolls and the torturers in the torturing room, they found an entranceway, which they don't necessarily fully know, into the back of the dungeon, into the end boss area, and they ran into a gelatinous cube. Whoa. Now, a little bit of a mess up on the thigh. Not a big deal. It's pretty wet still. Just go across it with a clean brush. Wipe it off with the leg, which has got that glaze on it. And it basically pulled it right off. So, not a big deal. Mm-hmm. And they did. And the ogre was extremely helpful for them to be able to kill the gnolls. Matter of fact, I don't know they would have been able to do the gnolls when they did the gnolls without him. Which, if you've read the module, is kind of the point. He's potentially there as a bartering tool. And I will tell you, the party loved that. They loved having that ogre run around and kill stuff. Now, the ogre did die, and the party actually felt a little bit bad. It was the ogre's intention to eventually backstab the party. less backstab and more they were going to make him the ultimate power and he was going to become in charge. And then he would allow the party to exist but away from him. But he died. He died very quickly, too. I want to say he died fighting Knowles, but it was in a place he shouldn't have died. I want to say he got he had like 3 attacks against him and all 3 hit and then dead. But we'd actually crossed the mental process of would the cleric be able to heal him? And the party had decided they weren't even going to ask. They would just accept any damage to him and not try and heal him. They would do mundane healing, but they wouldn't ask the god of light to heal the ogre. They felt like the god of light would be offended because they asked. And they were correct. Because he was still evil. They made good choices. They made a lot of good choices, actually, over the time. They made a couple silly ones. I have too much here. One of the ones that they made that was, I won't say silly, but it was a trap that got sprung that they fell into, was the Orc Cave A, I want to say, or C. There's 2 Orc Caves. It's the one with the skulls in the wall. And one of the severed heads is not severed. It's just an orc pushing his face into a hole and looking through it from the other side. And as soon as you walk away, he pulls his head back and then goes and get help. And the ambush is set. And that happened, of course. It didn't matter. They trumped the orcs. There was a point in time when everyone thought they were going to die. There was like 15 female orcs and like 8 warrior orcs. So what they called like the non-combatant, but they had a little bit of combat ability and they would protect their area. But you could negotiate to leave and they would just leave. Anyways, there was like a total of like 23 mobs, 23 orcs in a room. It was a big room. And the magic user cast sleep. And he like maxed out his dice and put 16 hit dice worth of creatures asleep. And like over half the room fell asleep. And they were like, oh. And then that same round of combat, I remember a henchman died. They had hired a henchman who they didn't really think was that good, but he talked a big game, and I forget what his name was. Anyways, the orcs were doing different things, and one of the orcs ran up to the henchman and threw a spear. And it hit the henchman. And I knew the henchman was dead. The henchman had 2 hit points. Because he'd rolled a 2 for hit points. He was all bluff. But it didn't matter. The damage dice came up and rolled a 6. So we had a good death speech. I won't say speech, but death blow. And it brought the reality. That was the same round. So orcs moved up, got in range, were about ready to really start devastating people. Threw like 3 or 4 spears at people. One of the henchmen got nailed and was gutted. And I think the warrior had caught one for like 3 points of damage. And he had, technically she, her name was Squiggles. She was a dwarf. I didn't name it. That was a player. Squiggles had taken like 3 damage, and she had like 29 at like 3rd level. So she was fine. But there was a lot of people in the party who were very concerned about 3 damage still. Both the magic users, for example. All right. So you can kind of see how I'm separating these out. I think it looks pretty good. Got rid of a lot of the white. I'm going to go over the skin, because I'm going to have to separate that from the hair before I go over the hair. And I think I'm actually going to go pretty different. So they have this red base. And I think I'm going to go like just completely different than any of that. So I'm going to let this sit over here because I got all the pots filled. I saw another one of these over here. I'll use this one here. We're going to go yellow. He's not going to end up yellow. I'm not painting yellow Bugbear, but I want a yellow hue in their skin. It's going to be somewhere between like a dry brush with a correction to it. Let me get this. I'm going to use this piece of wood here for wiping my dry brush off. Put these guys over here. This yellow is going to be better than I think people think at first. Because it's going over this red, it's not going to look yellow. But it's going to make these colors pop. And I'm going to have to fix the leather and anything around this, because for sure it's going to get everywhere. But that's just fine. And again, when I come back over this with the wash, all this will darken. So the parts that were white will turn more yellow. The parts that were red will be less. And then when the brown wash, which I'm probably going to do specifically over the flesh, hits the red, it's going to turn almost black. And just like when I did that wash, all these muscle groups are going to become a lot more, I won't say exaggerated, but they're going to become a lot more identifiable. So in like deep areas back here, I'm actually going to almost a stippling like move to make sure I at least get that paint in there so that it's not just everything else but that. And I still got to fix the face and the eyes. And this here is going to be a bit of a problem. I'm going to go over it with yellow. There's no red in there, but I'll see if I can fix that. And if you're like, well, all the other ones aren't this color, I don't think they have to be. I think different colors are fine, even within, if you only have like specific, like let's say I only did this red base on this model. Well, what that would be is this would be the fighting style for like some group, and that's the way they came out. That's the way they look. Like you wouldn't have to justify it too much. The justification would be there on its own. But if someone were to ask, why are these more this way? You wouldn't have to say, yeah, it's because I painted them 5 years apart from each other. You could say it's a different clan or a different, breed or species or subgroup, or they come from a different part of the world, or it's unknown why they're different. And then provide some legacy story while you go figure it out. That blue is going to be a little bit of a problem because that blue is going to react. I'm foreseeing that being a little bit of an issue. The rest of this I'm not overly worried about. The face, the ears, the muscles, that stuff, that'll work itself out. Changing the color of that blue to green is not what I want to do. I want that blue to stay blue. So I'll probably touch up that blue. All right. Yeah, the Kobold Cave and Keep of the Borderlands, it has a trap near the front. And that got someone in a funny way, didn't harm anyone. I've never actually seen that trap truly harm anyone. Whenever someone fails a save and they fall in the pit, I don't necessarily just automatically have it do a d6 damage unless it's more than 10 feet deep. Like I give them a dexterity check to see if they kind of break their fall. Mostly because that would mean every pit trap is just instant death for a lot of classes. Or really races. But basically, you couldn't survive most traps at first level. So I want them to still be dangerous and cause problems, but I don't necessarily want it to be like an instant reroll. Because most players can't survive a d6 damage at first level. They don't have 6 hit points. Every time you get in melee, if they hit you, there's a chance you're going to die. That's how deadly this edition of the game is. Now, we were playing BX, but so it was not quite as bad. But if you still hit a thief or a magic user, even if they rolled max hit points, the most they were going to have is 5 hit points if they have a con bonus. And good luck with that. All right, so we got a little bit of yellow on here. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm just talking about prior Dungeons & Dragon games while I paint my Bugbear. I have 3 I'm working on, and I have a leader I've been modifying. And his stuff looks like it's pretty well on there. All right, let me see here. I'm going to go... Need to fix that blue before it completely dries, maybe. See if I can salvage that. I mean, I guess the thing that's kind of cool about it is hitting it with this yellow, as long as it doesn't get green, which I'm surprised it didn't turn green, kind of gives it like this weathered look, which is cool. I'm down with that. Yeah, I think we're fine. All right. So let me show you how I did the bases real quick. I'm going to do that on this guy here. Basing is super simple. Elmer's glue, because it dries clear. Maybe. Put some on the front. Put some on the back. Wet a brush a little bit so it doesn't stick to the bristles real tight. And you just basically paint the base. Don't worry about it being exact. You just kind of want good coverage. And you don't want to go over this lip if you can. And if your base doesn't have a lip, then you just kind of want to create a lip. And just work around it. Paint up next to the feet. If you go over the toes, that's standard. Think about it. If you were in a forest, your feet could be buried under leaf litter, under mud, dirt. Like, you don't necessarily want to do that on purpose, but I don't think that's out of the ordinary. Just keep checking to see if anyone's saying anything in chat. Last time we had a bunch of chatting going on, which is cool. And this is fine too. I'm getting a lot done. Give us a little bit more of a scrub down, because I don't want that glue to sit in there. Now let me grab my gravel. Little Tupperware gravel. Take it in there, swirl it, knock it free. Seal those back up. Knocked a bunch of it off. And go back in there with that same brush and pull it out from where I don't want it. Flatten it out in places I do, but I don't want it that tall. Like around the feet, over the toes. And then we just let that dry. And when it gets done drying, kind of looks like that. And there's a little bit of glitches right here, but nothing that more flock or basing can't fix. And if you're not doing it all in one, you're doing it in several layers, you don't really have that problem. All right. So I've done all the parts. Getting to about where I'm going to do the wash. I need to do the face and the eyes. Look at, so a good eye brush over here. Not really. I got a decent brush. So I want to go over the areas where the eyes were with the black. I want to make this a little bit. I'm going to fix that in a second. So I got more black in here than I want. But this is fine. Give me a second here. Okay. Now I want to go back here and get the mouth. Okay. So I like how the eyes are a little darker around there. And I'm going to come back in there and tune that up some. And it's about pushing and pulling this paint. Yeah. I want just a little bit more here. It's very runny though. Okay. So I got that. I think that's good. And I'm going to go ahead and get the last one. And I need to let this dry before I go in and do the eyes and the teeth. That's way too dark. I went full unibrow there. There we go. That looks a lot better. Yep, that looks a lot better. Okay, so I need to go in and get this silver again. I need to dry brush that with a lighter silver. Redo this black and then hit that with that other silver. So let's do that first. Come back to this brush. I'm going to go over this brushed metal. Come back to a bigger brush. Thin it out some because again my paints are old and a little thick. So all the parts that I hit when I was doing my yellow dry brush, that's just going to go away. No problems. All the parts I touch with the brown just go away. And again, because it's a thin layer, it shouldn't make much of a difference. Alright, so that came out good. Touch up a little bit in this part. Actually, I touch up that fur. That's funny. Oh yeah, I still got to do that bag. I think I'm going to go over it with white. Because I'm going to do like an orange bag. I think that'd be cool. Shoulder strap feels pretty good. Those eyes look better, but they're not done. Okay. That looks good. I'm going to do the leather because that got hit by the yellow. And that will be that part. Maybe before this black goes away. Touch up this. All right. There we go. Now I just need to do the leather. That's a lot of leather. I don't have that much leather. Okay, so getting back, I guess, to the module talk, unless there's a specific question. The party ended up capturing what a referee would know as cave A and B and C, turning them into player occupied space. This is actually beige, not leather. This is supposed to be that. And from there, they started to build a way to siege the rest of it. The party ended up having basically a lot of extra henchmen that didn't travel with them. That basically just stayed in the... I don't know what I'm going to do with that under leather. So there's like a pad that's underneath this arm guard. I thought it was hair when I first saw it. It's not hair. It's a pad.
You done?
Yes. You're good. What's up?
Do you have any ideas for a movie I could watch?
Why don't you ask Mom about Lorax, since you were asking about Lorax? There you go. Take your faucet. Please go over there. Stop trying to get in the camera, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye. My daughter so wants to be on the internet doing YouTube stuff. And while I will do the game and her voice will be on there, my wife and I have decided we don't want her on there. She is young. And sometimes people are weird. So I'm probably going to do a game session where I do D&D with her, but I'm not sure she will be physically on there more than her arms or whatever. Okay. So I got the basics of the leather. I also see this pad over here. Right through here. So it's right in here and right across the top and the bottom. I think I'm just going to paint it leather and move on. We'll see how it turns out. It's had slightly different pigments thrown against it. The yellow, for example. We'll see if it comes out special in some way. All right, next I gotta do is white. And I got silver to touch up on. I know what I could talk about. The Cave of the Unknown. So the Cave of the Unknown was a part of Keep in the Borderland that was supposed to be Gygax's nod to the hat to, you need to do something here. And he basically sent people out to go make something of it. I turned it into a multi-level mine with stopes and conveyors and subterranean camp that had an elevator that was broken, that they could be repaired, that could become something, and it was a salt mine. Which was very important in this area. I had named the whole area the Saltwood Marsh. And the Saltwood Marsh was supposed to be, let me pull my camera up here a little differently. So the Saltwood Marsh was supposed to be an area where it provided salt for the region, the whole area. And a while back, the production had slowed, which caused a lot of regional problems. And the support for this kingdom had dwindled, which is why it was a keep on the borderland. And by regaining the salt and be able to go back to that, they'd be able to maybe push out past this and save this so it wasn't just a keep on the borderland. The eventual goal was that the party would be able to turn this into their home, that you would have potentially, not necessarily someone take over the keep where the Castilian was at, because that would be, kind of usurping power. But it would be an area where you could have someone take over the salt mines. You could have someone take over the caves themselves. And there was kind of plans for both. Even if you weren't building something, if you were just keepers of the secrets to try and prevent chaos from coming back. That would be huge for this area. And both of those were options. And the Cave of the Unknown was that. And the party had found a way into there and had run into, I forget the name of the guy, Bix, something like that. They had no idea what he was. They just knew that he was terrifying and that he didn't mind, well, that the party he was with was terrified of him. And what he was, I guess I could say it now, was he was an ogre. And he was a fairly skilled ogre. And he was smart and was tactical, not like a typical ogre, and had some levels. And the reason why people were scared of him is anyone he felt did not deserve to be at his campfire, he would threaten to eat. And anyone who died, who he felt like wasn't worthy of being at his campfire, he would eat. All right, so I got the coin purse painted white. And that should be good. I'm going to go ahead and go over the top of this leather here with more leather look. And make sure I got this leather strap on the back of the leg good. And I need to get this leather strap here good. Okay. That one's good. Anyways, if anyone has questions, I'm still here to answer any questions. It doesn't have to be about keeping the Borderlands. I know a fair bit about a lot of the modules. Matter of fact, I own all the basic modules. I have a lot of D&D books and I've been playing for a long time. So consider me your resident source of information if you have questions. But if you're just here to watch me paint, that's cool too. I do watch back to see if there's any improvements I can do in my painting. You might have noticed a lot of changes from last week to this week, for example. Okay. Okay. About ready to get to where I paint the terrain. I think I'm going to add some black to the brown and make it into like a rocky mud. I don't think I need more leather. Yep, take that back. Well, I got some black to get off of there. Oh, black everywhere. Okay, I got that part salvaged. Alright, so fingers, not a good place to have it. Don't want to touch a miniature and get all over the miniature. This here, which I don't know if you can see, going to just adjust this a little bit. This little black dot, I can work with that. That's probably plenty. And we'll come back over here just a little bit. Add some water to this. I kind of sometimes hesitate to do the bases early because I may want to match it later. So that they all have sort of the same brown mud color. But I feel like I'm going to be doing this a few times with the basing. Now, there was a part here where I had a previous miniature and I glued the feet and they kind of stuck out. Not a big deal. That will just become terrain. And I have a feeling my final layers of flocking on this will actually go over the edge in places. And I can always cut it down smooth. And I'm going to be painting it black anyway, so a nice, hefty, thick layer. Again, I'm not overly worried about going over the small details on the feet. In some ways, it kind of helps you see it because it'll be a little bit more evident. And in other ways, it's not going to matter because I'm probably going to have grass over this tufts of grass, maybe even more gravel to raise up some areas. Now I probably wouldn't go over the feet with more gravel, but you get the general idea. I'm not even sure I have enough of this to do it the way I'm doing it. I am kind of lathering it up. So there's kind of a, if you don't have a lot of paint, what you end up doing is you bang your bristles on the rocks a lot versus letting it just kind of glide over it. And when you do that, you tear up your brush quicker. And I use cheap brushes, as I said in the first video, so it doesn't take much. Put a little more water in here. See if we can get this extend out just a little bit. It's going to be close. More covering up the white. All right. Well, I think that's coming out pretty good. All right, what do I have left? Oh yeah, I do a little bit of touch up on the belt with the silver. And I want to say it was this mid-tone, right? Yeah. And a little bit in the shoulders. And I'm probably not going to go any brighter. I'm just going to hit the whole thing with a wash after this. And then hit the mace again with probably some rust colors for like a rusty mace. And I'm probably going to go back with that silver I already have on it because I kind of like that level of silver on it. I think that's what I'm going to do. All right. So I want to get this back here because when this wash goes over it, it's going to make this pattern on the front really pop. It's like some sort of Inca design pattern, like a face or something. And I've seen this with silver over the knobs, and I've seen it with leather, and I think I like it with the leather. Parts I got yellow. I'm going to go ahead and fix that. I'm using a smaller brush here, and I'm going over it with thicker paint as sort of a highlight. because now I'm trying to conceal mistakes. There we go. You can see there's a little bit of that silver on that instead of the leather look. And I think I'm going to go back over that with the leather. Not that I have much leather left. I might have to add leather. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and get that leather concealed. Too much brown again. Okay. Hmm. I need to go back over this fur a little bit more. Okay. And go back over this fur. It's a little too red under there. And I need to fix that yellow in places. What makes the hair stand out as such a good thing, in my opinion, is when it stands next to that yellow. And so I gotta fix that there. I don't know if you've ever heard of something called object source lighting, but it almost looks like the yellow is object source lighting on that fur, and I don't like that. And I know I had some black here. I don't know if that's black or if that's metallic, but either way, I just want to kind of such a small part, but it's so bright. Okay, coming back to the hair. With this one? No. Let me put a little bit more here though. If you remember, I was going to go back over it with like a dark color later. And then go over it with a light color. I don't know if I am going to go over the light color. Kind of liking the dark all the way. Like we'll see when I get the next big wash on, how things go. All right, let's go ahead and get that pop. That little pop of color. I think I'm red. I kept thinking orange, but I'm going to go with red, I think. I'm going to go with red for the money bag. A little pouch in the back. I do not need a lot of it. So literally this one here had so much pressure from being old. And warm, probably. That when I opened it, it just pushed up a little bit. Do not want that on the knuckles as much. All right, now you would have thought I'd gone back over it with red when I started out with a red miniature. Probably not. I certainly didn't. But after adding yellows and browns, all of a sudden the red looks pretty good. It's kind of faded. Weathered look. I don't want that right there on the fur. Just did a lot of work to get the fur looking. Red and blue don't mix well. They kind of make a purple. More like a darker blue normally. Because unless you know the science of it, you're not really making purple. And I don't want like a royal purple or a regal purple or whatever you call it. But that came out pretty good. All right. So I have I think I see one small detail I want to do. And it's going to be a pop. No. All right. There's a little ring around the base of the mace. And I just want to hit that ring with a little bit of color. And I'm going to make a flesh wash. Hit the rest of that. I got to do the teeth. And then I'll do the flesh wash. Here we go. So while I don't want it to be super thin, certainly not like many of the other colors I've done, it needs to be not super thick. I think that's going to be perfect. I could have gone with like a black ring. So I guess that's a choice. I could have done a black ring instead of a sort of a brass ring. All right, guys. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go with one last thing, and then I'm going to give some thought on this. And the thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the brass part last, but I'm going to do that flesh wash, that dark wash across the miniature. And then we'll go from there. So let me go ahead and put these up. I don't think I want to use that brush. I actually want to go up a size. Something like this. If I had a bit of just like a cheat. I guess I won't be able to cheat. I don't trust any of my Games Workshop paints right now. So we have brown oxide. Yeah, it's never been opened. No, I've got other ones. Molten chocolate. Let's go with that. Okay. That is too much. All right. Let's see how this looks. Oh, yeah. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to go a little blacker. I had black. This is actually, I think, a metallic black, but the pigment count will be so thin by the time you add all this water and the other colors. As I was saying in my first video, you're not even really going to be able to tell. So yes, this is exactly the kind of look I'm going for. Sort of a muddy, dark look. And in areas where I don't want it that thick, I'll just go ahead and pull it off. And look at that face I was talking about earlier. Bring that red down, that yellow down. And then when I come back next week, I'll do the fingernails and things like that, and we'll make things pop. So that blue kind of bled off there. It's a little frustrating. I'll probably have to go back over that with some blue. That happens. Look at that wood. It's super cool looking. And there we go. We got more on the toes. And we'll just kind of let that one sit. Hopefully this yellow doesn't bleed off like that blue did. Nope, looks like it's staying pretty well. That beige came out real nice. The leather came out real nice. The flesh, oops, got toned down a lot. And I kind of like it too. But we'll see. I think some parts are going to be very yellow. And we'll see how that looks when all this comes back, and if I need to touch any of that up, bring it down. If it just looks good with that switch of color. This is the beauty of a wash. And for most people, this is beyond the tabletop of what they would be doing. Oh, gotta get that shield. Turn that shield from mediocre to detailed. Gotta get rid of that white. Go in there with that wash, and boom, done. All right, we're gonna let this guy dry. Come back to it. And let's see how this green does. Green is sticking around. That's good. And this didn't take long, as you can see. And yeah, I'm just kind of blotching it on at this point. Small percentage of this is I've been asked to go help my wife do something, which is why we're kind of cutting this at the end, though I would have probably done that anyways. I might have done the teeth before I put this on. I'll just do the teeth afterwards now. It's not a big deal. But it allows me a chance to get an idea of what decisions I want to make with the miniature. Definitely need to get this leg though. It is way too bright. And I'm running out of pigment. Okay, do I have enough? Kind of barely. Anything else? Oh, the mace. And I gotta touch that brass down a little bit. Anyways, guys, look for next Tuesday. I'll be doing a community post. And next Wednesday, I will be doing another one of these live streams. And we will go from there. That looks really good. I can't wait to see what that looks like when it dries. All right, guys. All right, guys. So this is going to be it for these three right now. I'm going to go ahead and touch these up next week. Finish them. We'll finish painting the base. We'll finish doing the basing, do any of the highlights, the low lights, that type of stuff, and then go from there. And I'll start working on the hero, and we'll get that done next week. All right, so look for pictures on this Tuesday when I do my community post. All right, guys, thank you. Have a great day. Keep rolling those dice and see